The engine hummed with a steady rhythm as the sun rose over the airfield, painting the horizon in shades of gold and crimson. The small Cessna 172 sat on the tarmac, its white fuselage glowing faintly under the morning light. Inside the cockpit, a young student pilot sat rigid, headset pressed against his ears, eyes nervously darting across the checklist in his lap. His palms were damp, his heart pounding in his chest, not from fear of flying, but from the weight of the moment, his very first lesson in the sky. Beside him sat the instructor, a calm, seasoned aviator with lines of experience etched into his face. His voice, even through the headset, carried a calm authority. "All right," he said, glancing at the student's trembling hands on the yoke. "Today, we start with the most important skill you'll ever learn, straight and level flight. Master this, and you'll master the foundation of flying." The student swallowed hard, giving a nervous nod. The smell of fuel mixed with the morning air and the vibration of the idling engine seemed to echo inside his chest. The instructor leaned forward, scanning the instruments with the ease of a man who had done this thousands of times. Then he looked outside toward the horizon, a faint smile forming under his calm demeanor. "Let's get her airborne." The student advanced the throttle slowly, the roar of the engine growing louder as the aircraft began to roll down the runway. The vibrations intensified, the wheels bumping along the asphalt. The airspeed needle came alive, climbing steadily as the Cessna picked up speed. The instructor's hand rested lightly on the controls, ready to intervene, but he let the student feel the weight of responsibility. At 60 knots, the instructor gave a subtle nod. The student eased back on the yoke, and the nose lifted gently into the sky. The rumble of wheels on asphalt vanished, replaced by
the rush of air under the wings. The ground fell away beneath them, hangars, taxiways, and cars shrinking into a miniature world. The student's heart skipped a beat. He was flying. "Good," the instructor said evenly. "Climb us to 3,000 feet, nice and steady." The student adjusted the pitch, eyes darting between the altimeter and the horizon. The aircraft rose, the altimeter needle sweeping upward. He felt the weight of the yoke, the delicate balance between pressure and release, the sensation of the airplane floating yet demanding his constant attention. The morning sun filled the cockpit with golden light as they climbed through 1,500 feet, then 2,000. By the time they reached 3,000 feet, the student's hands were trembling slightly from the effort. The instructor reached forward, adjusting the throttle to cruise power. "Now," he said calmly, "this is where your real lesson begins." The world below stretched out in every direction. Fields, highways, distant towns, all reduced to a patchwork of colors and shapes. Above them, the sky was vast, endless, an ocean of blue. The instructor pointed toward the horizon. "Do you see that line where the earth meets the sky? That's your best friend. Straight and level flight is about keeping the nose of the aircraft aligned with that horizon. Too high, and you climb. Too low, and you descend. Your job is to keep us balanced, steady in altitude, steady in heading, steady in airspeed." The student nodded, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He nudged the yoke slightly forward, then too much, causing the nose to dip more than he intended. The altimeter responded immediately, the needle slipping downward. "Easy," the instructor said calmly. "Small corrections, gentle hands. Think of it like holding a bird. You grip too tightly, you'll crush it. Too loose, it'll fly away. You need balance." The student eased the yoke back, and the airplane's nose lifted toward the horizon once again. The altimeter slowed, hovering just above 3,000 feet. For a moment, it felt right. The airplane steadied, the airspeed indicator held. The airplane hummed steadily, the engine a constant background music as the young student fought to keep his hands calm on the yoke. The air around them was smooth, only a faint ripple of turbulence now and then nudging the wings, reminding him that the sky was alive. Each nudge made his pulse jump, and each correction felt like a test. But with every passing minute, he was beginning to sense something he hadn't felt before: control. The instructor glanced sideways, reading not just the instruments, but the look in his student's eyes. "You feel it now, don't you?" he asked quietly. The student hesitated. "It's like it wants to move on its own." "Exactly," the instructor replied. "The airplane is always in motion, always drifting. Your job isn't to freeze it in place. Your job is to guide it. Think of yourself not as controlling the airplane, but as balancing with it, like dancing with a partner. You lead gently, and it follows." The student nodded, eyes back on the horizon. The line between earth and sky stretched endlessly ahead, steady and unmoving. Yet the airplane's nose seemed determined to wander above and below it. With a small adjustment, the student lowered the nose slightly, watching the altimeter steady itself at exactly 3,000 feet. His chest tightened with satisfaction. But then came the air. A small pocket of turbulence rocked the Cessna, bouncing it gently like a pebble skipping across water. The nose dipped suddenly, and the altimeter began to unwind. The student gripped the yoke tighter, pulling back too aggressively. The nose jerked upward, the wings wobbled, and the airspeed dropped sharply. "Stop," the instructor said firmly, his hand hovering near the controls but not touching them. "You're over-controlling again. Relax your grip." The student forced himself to ease up, fingers trembling. The aircraft shuddered, then smoothed out, climbing back toward level. The instructor let a moment pass before speaking again. "Turbulence will always come. You can't stop it. All you can do is respond with calm, measured corrections. The sky is unpredictable, but you must remain predictable." The student swallowed, nodding. His heart was racing, but he tried again. A gentle push, a small release, and soon the airplane was steady once more. The horizon lined up neatly with the nose, and the altimeter needle froze again at 3,000. The airspeed returned to a solid 100 knots. The wings stretched straight and even. A silence filled the cockpit, the kind that came not from the absence of sound, but from the presence of calm. For the first time since takeoff, the student felt the airplane wasn't fighting him. It was moving with him. The instructor broke the silence. "Do you know why this lesson matters so much?" The student shook his head, still focused on holding the horizon steady. "Because every maneuver, every emergency, every landing, every climb, it all comes back to this. If you can fly straight and level, you can recover from anything. Lose your instruments, straight and level. Engine problem, straight and level. Caught in turbulence, lost in clouds, if you can hold this, you'll always have time to think. Straight and level keeps you alive." The words sank into the student like weights, heavy yet reassuring. He didn't just want to pass a lesson, he wanted to earn the confidence that came with it. His jaw tightened with determination. Minutes passed. The airplane cruised like an arrow through the sky, stable and steady. Each time the nose drifted, the student corrected it gently, barely moving the yoke. Each time the air nudged them, he adjusted smoothly, learning to anticipate rather than react. Slowly, the movements became instinct, less thought, more feel. The instructor's voice softened, almost a whisper over the headset. "Now you're flying." The student allowed himself a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. He could feel the rhythm now, the balance between attitude and power. The sky was clear but not calm. Thin layers of warm air rose from the ground, creating invisible ripples that tossed the airplane gently from side to side. At first it was subtle, then more persistent, and soon the student felt the yoke twitching in his hands as if the airplane itself was restless, refusing to stay still. His jaw tightened, his shoulders stiff. Every bump sent a jolt of panic through his arms, and each correction felt too slow, too weak. The altimeter needle danced up and down, never quite steady. The airspeed shifted a few knots with every gust. The horizon refused to stay where it should. The instructor remained calm, watching the struggle with patient eyes. "You're fighting it," he said simply. The student's voice cracked with frustration. "I'm trying." "Exactly. You're trying too hard. Relax." Another bump. The wings rocked. The student jerked the yoke left, then right, overcorrecting, the airplane swaying like a pendulum. His breath grew shallow, quick. Sweat gathered on his forehead beneath the headset. The instructor finally reached over, his hand brushing the yoke. "Let me show you." He guided the controls with feather-light movements, barely touching them, almost as if he wasn't flying at all. The airplane steadied, not perfectly but smoothly, riding the bumps like a boat rides waves. "Do you see? You don't fight the turbulence. You flow with it. Small corrections, always gentle." The student nodded, watching carefully, every nerve focused on the instructor's movements. Then the instructor released the yoke again, handing control back. "Your turn." The student's hands trembled, but he tried to imitate the subtle touches. The bumps came, the wings dipped, but instead of fighting hard, he nudged them back, light and patient. Slowly, the wild swings calmed, the horizon steadied, the airplane flowed through the air like a swimmer glides. Ding through waves. A deep breath left his lungs, tension draining from his arms. He could feel it now, not just see it. The airplane wanted balance, not force. The instructor smiled. "Better, much better." For a long stretch, they flew on like this, the Cessna steady, the world below moving slowly past. The student began to notice the little things he hadn't before: the faint buzz of the trim wheel, the rhythmic thrum of the engine, the smell of warm metal and fuel mixing with fresh morning air. The airplane no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like a living creature, and he was learning its language. But then, distraction crept in. His eyes lingered too long on the instruments, chasing the needles instead of trusting the horizon. The airplane began to wander again, drifting into a shallow climb. The airspeed dipped, almost unnoticeably, until the engine tone shifted, lower and heavier. The instructor's voice cut through the headset, sharp but calm. "Listen, do you hear it?" The student froze, confused. "The sound, the engine, it's telling you you're slow. Don't just look, listen, feel. Flying is not just with your eyes, it's with every sense you have." The student blinked, realizing the truth. The tone had changed. The controls felt heavier, sluggish. He pushed gently forward, lowered the nose, and the airspeed climbed back, the hum of the engine returning to its familiar rhythm. A faint smile tugged at his lips. He hadn't read it on the instruments. He had felt it. The instructor leaned back again, his eyes glinting with pride. "Now you're beginning to fly like a pilot." The student sat taller, confidence stirring in his chest. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. Every small victory carried with it a reminder of how much further he had to go. The sky was wide and the lessons endless, but for now he was holding it, straight, level, steady. The horizon. On stretched ahead, unbroken and infinite, a silent teacher guiding him forward. The air grew rougher as they flew further from the airfield. Warm updrafts rose from the patchwork of farmland below, colliding with cooler currents aloft. The sky, though still blue and open, had begun to breathe heavier, restless. The Cessna shuddered, dipped, then jolted upward in the grip of invisible hands. The student's knuckles turned white around the yoke. Every bump sent his heart racing. His eyes darted wildly between instruments, chasing needles, desperate to hold the airplane steady. The nose dropped. The altimeter slid downward. He yanked the yoke back too hard. The wings wobbled. Airspeed bled away. The airplane felt unstable, unpredictable, like it was slipping from his control. "Relax," the instructor barked sharply, his calm tone replaced with urgency. "I can't." The student gasped, panic cracking his voice. "It won't stay straight." The Cessna lurched again, the nose pitching up, the speed falling dangerously low. The engine's tone dipped, straining, warning. The instructor's hand hovered near the controls but didn't take them. His voice dropped, steady and firm. "Listen to me. Don't fight the sky. Flow with it. Gentle hands. Eyes on the horizon." The student's breaths came quick, shallow. His vision tunneled. All he could see was the altimeter needle sliding, the airspeed fluctuating, his corrections never enough. The instructor leaned closer, his voice a command now.
Look outside. Trust the horizon. Feel the airplane. Stop chasing the instruments. The words hit hard. The student forced his eyes away from the panel, out through the windshield. The horizon was still there, calm, steady, waiting. He loosened his grip, almost afraid to. The airplane wobbled, dipped, then steadied just slightly. He nudged the nose back toward the horizon, not with force, but with patience. The wings leveled, the speed returned, the engine's tone rising smooth.
Again. His chest heaved, sweat dripping down his neck, but slowly the panic gave way to clarity. The airplane was steadying under his touch, flowing through the bumps like a leaf carried by water. Not perfect, but safe. Controlled. The instructor finally leaned back, watching silently. His eyes said more than words ever could. For the next several minutes, the student flew in silence. Each time turbulence rocked them, he adjusted lightly, calmly. The horizon was his anchor now, the instruments his backup. The fear that had consumed him began to fade, replaced by something deeper. Trust. Trust in the airplane. Trust in himself. The world below stretched endlessly, but inside the cockpit, time seemed to slow. The steady hum of the engine, the rhythmic dance of corrections, the horizon holding firm. This was flying. Not the thrill of takeoff, not the rush of climbing, but the quiet mastery of balance. Finally, the instructor broke the silence. His voice was softer now, almost proud. That was your first real fight with the sky, and you won. The student exhaled shakily, almost laughing with relief. His arms trembled, but not from panic anymore, from the realization of what he had just done. He hadn't given up. He had found the calm inside the storm. The instructor added, "Remember this moment. Straight and level flying isn't about perfection. It's about patience. The sky will always move you. But if you stay calm, if you trust what you see and feel, you'll always bring the airplane back." The student nodded, willing to gather his strength. He looked down at the horizon, stretching forever. And for the first time, he believed. The Cessna flew on, steady again. The bumps filled the rhythm. The Cessna turned gently back toward the home field. The student's hands no longer gripped the yoke with desperation. Instead, they rested lightly, confident, like a musician touching the strings of a guitar he finally knew how to play. The air still shifted, bumps still came, but they no longer rattled him. He breathed with the airplane, letting it move, guiding it softly back to center each time. The instructor sat quietly, arms crossed, watching. His silence was deliberate, a test. The airplane flew straight, the wings even, the nose balanced against the horizon. For mile after mile, the line of the world stayed steady through the windshield, unshaken by turbulence, unbroken by panic. The student almost couldn't believe it. Minutes earlier, he had felt like he was drowning, gasping for control, certain the sky was stronger than him. Now every adjustment felt natural, almost effortless. He wasn't fighting anymore. He was flying. Below, the farmland rolled by in neat squares, rivers glinting silver in the afternoon sun. The distant airfield came into view, a small patch of asphalt surrounded by fields. The student guided the airplane toward it, keeping his focus steady, every motion smooth. Finally, the instructor spoke. His voice carried that rare tone, both serious and proud. "Do you feel it now?" The student nodded slowly, eyes on the horizon. "Yeah, it's steady. It feels alive, but steady." "That's flying," the instructor said. "Not pulling, not fighting, just listening, just guiding. You don't force an airplane to fly straight and level. You invite it to." The words sank deep, like they were carved into stone. The instructor let the silence linger again, then finally gave the order. "Bring her back." The student took a breath, trimmed the airplane, and began the descent. His hands moved with calm precision, small corrections. Nothing rushed. The engine hummed. The wings cut through the late afternoon air. and the airplane obeyed. As they neared the runway, the bumps softened, the air smoothing out as if rewarding the effort. The student lined up with the strip of asphalt, heart steady now, not racing with fear, but beating with quiet determination. The wheels touched down gently, a soft squeak against the runway. The airplane rolled out straight, slowing under his control. Only when they cleared the runway and the engine idled back did the instructor finally turn to him. For a long moment he just looked, eyes unreadable. Then, with the faintest smile, he said, "You just flew your first true straight and level flight. Remember this day, because from here on, the sky will never scare you the same way again." The student let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Relief, pride, and something else. An awakening. He looked back at the horizon one last time, stretching wide and endless beyond the field. It didn't look threatening anymore. It looked like a promise. The engine ticked softly as it cooled, the sunlight painting the world gold. In the quiet, the lesson etched itself forever into his memory. Flying wasn't about conquering the sky. It was about learning to move with it, to trust, to believe. And as they taxied back toward the hangar, the student smiled faintly, knowing that no matter how many flights he would take in the future, he would never forget this one. The flight where he learned not just how to keep an airplane straight and level, but how to steady himself.